Okay, with that, I think we'll bring in Jack and Mark and Amit. Guys.
Greetings, Chip. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Hey, Chip.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you all take it away, and Amit, in your capable hands, and I'll step out and we'll be back a little bit.
Hey, what a great beginning, and thanks to the whole community for joining. Massive attendance today, so 160 plus people on a webinar at the fag end of the pandemic. So really appreciate everybody joining. Folks, I'm Amit Sinha. I'm President and Chief Customer Officer here at Workspan. I'm joined in here by Mark Rolfe, SVP for Global Business Development and Ecosystems at SAP, and Jack Miller, who is head of the SAP practice for Cognizant, leading an 11,000 person organization driving the entire practice. So folks, welcome, and let's kick this session off. So Mark leads, first quickly introducing Mark and then getting a remit of his purview there. Mark leads the whole global GSI, GSSP organization across all lines of business and industries and the global tech partners as well, and has been driving a massive change as SAP has climbed onto the cloud in a massive way. Mark, can you describe your role in your own words and give us a sense of what are some of the big things that you're driving today?
Yeah, thanks for having me first off, and welcome to everybody from rather cold Boston today. We thought it was spring, but it seems to have gone back to winter. So as Amit said, my name is Marc Rolfe, and I co-lead our global business development and ecosystem team at SAP. And again, as he mentioned, we manage our strategic partners across our services partners, our technology partners, our emerging partners, as well as our industry partners. And as we've been talking about, the ecosystem from an SAP perspective has really been elevated in our overall strategy as we continue to evolve towards a cloud company. And that transformation has really heightened the need and the understanding with all stakeholders at SAP around what an ecosystem can bring to our company. An ecosystem's always been important to SAP, but with the move to the cloud, it becomes much more important and front and center. So we're working on a lot of programs that are both internally focused on change management to help our organization understand what that means in the context of an ecosystem and cloud, but obviously also with the partners. We need to learn how to work with the partners in a different way in this environment. So that's what the journey we're on. It's a transformation, and we're pretty excited about where we are there and where we're heading.
Awesome, thanks, Mark. And let me bring Jack, your introduction into the conversation as well. As I mentioned, Jack leads the practice for SAP at Cognizant. Jack, describe your role in your own words and give us a sense of a day in your life.
Well, hey, thanks, Amit. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. So yes, I lead the SAP practice at Cognizant. We're about 11,000 associates globally. I spent 10 years at SAP. So still within the SAP universe, just on a different side of the table. The thing I find interesting in comparison between the two is on this side of the table, Cognizant really gets a lot of its revenue from a very small core group of clients, and it allows us to have the really traditional trusted advisor type conversation where we're talking about business strategy first, right? We're not talking about technology. We're not even really talking about business processes at that point. We're really talking about where does the CEO and the C-suite want to take the organization. And so those are fun conversations to have that ultimately themselves cascade back into things that we'll talk about, like business processes and transformation, and then ultimately, technology. So I work within Cognizant, been here about 6.5 years, and appreciate being invited to join.
Awesome, Jack. So let me begin this with you, Mark. SAP has had a long arc successfully driving business applications all the way from on-prem and now going to the cloud. Talk about this cloud transformation. What does it really mean for SAP driving this transformation, and particularly for you leading this transformation with the ecosystem?
Yeah, so if we take a step back, I mean, as you mentioned, we have a legacy of being an on-premise vendor in the market. And I think over the last several years, we've started to make that transition to a cloud company, the acquisition of SaaS products into our portfolio. But I think if you look at what SAPs where we're heading and kind of some of the market announcements we made late last year around our change in our strategy, in Q3 last year, our CEO announced to the market that SAP would accelerate our move to the cloud. But what does that really mean? So, I mean, as you take a step back from that and put some context around that, we have obviously been working on, is that a focus on software as a service? Do we accelerate our partnerships with infrastructure as a service providers? How do we change our engagement model with our large services partners? And as we kind of talk to our customers and a lot of the analysts out there, we really came up with a new approach to what we felt was should be our strategy for moving the company to the cloud. So as we also mentioned or announced in early January, we really took all that input in and announced a new offering to the market that isn't just software as a service, isn't infrastructure as a service, but is really focused around business transformation as a service. And this is Rise with SAP. So what does that really mean? It's really working both with obviously products and solutions, tools provided by SAP in a more simplified and formal bundle that we'll offer to the market in a cloud environment that will include things like our ERP in the cloud, tools like business process intelligence, our platform around BTP to extend and innovate. So it's a bundle priced in a cloud with cloud economics. But also business transformation as a service is not just about what SAP brings to the table. Part of our strategy is really about how we leverage the ecosystem to complete business transformation as a service. So the real focus from our perspective is taking that bundle, working with our ecosystem to put together a complete end-to-end solution that really enables the value as we land that. And really Rise is about landing the foundation for the journey to the intelligent enterprise from an SAP perspective, but also working with our ecosystem to make sure we're continuing that journey, driving innovation through the life cycle of the customer, and really engaging our partners and our customers along that journey to help drive, really make up that ultimate view of what the intelligent enterprise can be.
And Mark, let's double click a little bit on the changing role of partners and the different engagement model you're driving. Give us a sense of the war story, if you will, on how is the engagement model with partners different, and partners different than what you're trying to do right now. And if you can sharply nail one or two points for the audience here, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think traditionally, again, our legacy, really our engagement, the ecosystem has always been important, right? Traditionally, we've engaged, as an example, our large consulting partners in an account around, how we sell software and how they deliver and implement that software in a more of a sequential view. Obviously, we've helped each other along the way in terms of influencing, in terms of aligning at that account. But it really was not an end-to-end solution that had to be aligned and sold and delivered together. When we think about cloud, we think about what I just mentioned around Rise with SAP and this business transformation as a service opportunity. We really need to come together with our partners and put together end-to-end solutions, like I mentioned. And then engage our partners in a much different way and engage our partners throughout the life cycle. Mm-hmm. So when we're putting together the solution, that's the first piece, right? But then how do we sell it together? It's no longer about selling software and service. It's about selling the whole package and working together early in the opportunities to position that solution, how we deliver together, and how we operate together. So I think those are some of the key things. It's a new engagement model that we need to drive with our partners across that full life cycle. I think what Mike mentioned before in his speech as well, which is so important in this environment.
Wow. There's so much to unpack right there. So let me shift this to you, Jack. We heard from Mark that instead of service partners coming in after the software was sold, right? Here the model is completely changing with delivering business transformation as a service. Given your long arc in the industry, Can you contrast this and how it impacts, how you are seeing from your vantage point as Cognizant, how you are seeing this, and in particular new things like RISE as well?
Well, in a consulting firm, our customers come to us in various ways. A lot of our core clients come to us initially through our core advisory services. So we talk a lot about digital in the consulting landscape. We do a lot of advisory consulting based on industry trends, industry issues. And I would say when I look at sort of, maybe step back just from SAP for a second, when I look at what's the most successful outcomes for our clients, right? So starting with the customer in mind first, and we always talk about transformation. It's when we come in at the advisory level and talking about the needs of the business, where they see it going, how much of their growth and future positioning is going to be organic versus inorganic, right? How much M&A do they feel like they need to do to get to be, say, top 3 leader in their area? And then what are the best practices around those business processes that their competitors are doing? That's really coming in at the right level. Because ultimately those conversations, as I was talking about earlier, trickle down into, well, then if I want to be top 3 in pharma, right, then what are the best practices around the business processes that I need to do? Say I need to double my business and go from 10 to 20 billion. Who do I need to buy and what do I need to do to act like the number 1 or number 2? That always then comes back into processes and technology. Most of our customers in the SAP practice are going to cloud. Very few are staying on-prem. I'd say at least 80–90% of the ones that I'm working with today, they're all cloud. And so we partner really closely with SAP. So we don't, I would say that we partner pretty much on every single account and engagement. We're aligned with SAP. Our customers really expect it, frankly, because they'll pull us aside and they'll say, look, what do you see them coming from an S4 standpoint, from a technology stand, for a piece of technology that I'd like to have in my organization, right? Are you hearing anything from their product development groups? Like, are you guys connected at that level? So they expect us to naturally have a deep partnership with SAP. So that means not just communication on the deal level, but communication on the product roadmap level, communication at a global and at a regional level, because almost all of our customers are global companies. So are you talking to whoever's running this out of Waldorf, right? Do we have relationships at that level? They just expect that. And so I think with RISE, what we're seeing SAP doing is really then helping the customers make that move to cloud a little easier, and also getting a little bit more into the business process intelligence aspect as well. So I see them really kind of coming up and really joining us. I think it's a great offering. We're actually working right now with a set of customers, taking this directly with them together. And they're also building some tools and services within RISE that I think our customers will really respond positively to. And then I think lastly, in addition to just the partnership that they expect, the reality is anytime you do an S4 transformation, these are long-term engagements. This is not a 3 to 6 month, we're going to install some analytics, build some dashboards, and then we're going to punch out. These are multi-year engagements, board level approved budgets, monthly CEO level cadences and engagements on the outcomes, because that's really what they're focused on. And that means and requires tight alignment. So we see that partnership as just being key and natural to the function to help our customers get where they want to go.
Fantastic. And Mark talked about, how the engagement model is shifting, where you're co-building solutions, including your IP, for example, with new verticals like CPG, retail, having verticalized offerings around RISE, for example. And then co-deliver that you mentioned, it's not a short engagement, it's across a life cycle, full. But this is not just a tech transformation, right? This is, as you mentioned, a complete business transformation. So how are you working together, if you think about with the 3 in a box, if you will, you, SAP, and the customer together in this thing? Jack?
Well, I would describe, from a Cognizant standpoint, I would describe it as we have a ridiculous amount of IP. Like, I've got more, and I'll put it into 3 buckets. We've got tools and accelerators, which to me are not solutions. And then we have industry solutions, true industry solutions. Like, we built our own farm to fork solution initially, mostly on SAP technology. One of the things I'm real pleased to see SAP do is they now have their industry cloud offering that they're working with their top partners around, in really wanting to reach out. I view it as they just want to reach out to their partner community a little more closely, who already do this, and say, how can we formalize it and put it on the SAP's industry cloud and really And to use the pharma example, if we want to do something around warehouse management, if you're a pharmaceutical company, how could we build something a little more closely together that in the past might have been 100% standalone within a consulting firm, now is something that is really developed and built jointly together on the industry cloud. So we're an initial partner on that. We've got several solutions already identified. I view IP offerings, candidly admit, as they're conversation generators. The customers expect us to come in and know their industry and not just be able to talk about key issues in their industry, but to have built something that then addresses the same key issues. Don't just tell me you know what serialization is in pharma, just to continue to pick on pharma. But what have you built, say, around batch reporting? How can you prove that you actually know what it takes to ship, globally and go across the various countries, requirements around taxes and, getting drugs in and out of Switzerland from France, right? Have you built some technology, and does it work on SAP technology to help me do those things faster and better? I think that's just naturally expected. I think the industry cloud really is a chance to partner more closely with SAP and do something that traditionally we did on our own together with them.
Awesome. Mark, the question to you, Jack kind of shared the co-build, IP layering on top of RISE and BTP, utilizing some of the breakthrough AI and reporting and intelligence things that you may have there. But, this is also changing the GTM motion and what you're looking from partners. Can you describe what are the partner engagement models are no longer simple. It's completely across the customer life cycle. What are you seeing in terms of successful partners do in this change GTM?
Yeah, I think it's really, again, what I talk to our teams about and our partners about is about continuous innovation and continuous engagement. Again, we're not just selling a piece of software anymore and walking away and hoping that the customer and our delivery partners are able to get that live, right? We've got to be in a discussion with the pre-sales assets with our partner, build POCs with our partners and customers, build demos, et cetera, with our partners up front. But once we have a customer, whether it's RISE or whether it's any of our other cloud solutions, we need to continue that discussion. Things change. Take a look at, 18 months ago. Do we understand that the impact a pandemic would have on business in general? We need to be able to look at the business processes, engage our partners and the expertise they bring that Jack mentioned, whether it's from an industry perspective or whether it's from an LLB perspective, and enhance and evolve those business processes. It has to be a continuous discussion around that. On the other hand, once they have solutions in place, that we have to be nimble enough and continue to work with those customers and partners to be able to enhance those solutions based on emerging requirements. So I would just say it's not a one-time event anymore from an SAP perspective. And again, SAP is not the fastest moving organization in the world, but I think we have this right in terms of pivoting to a focus on the ecosystem, as Jack also mentioned, whether it's RISE, whether it's industry cloud, or whether it's BTP from an SAP perspective. You can't have that conversation without our ecosystem partners, and the knowledge IP that they bring to that is essential. So it's more about the continuous innovation.
Jack, any reactions from your side on that?
No, I totally agree. I see this kind of collaboration increasing as we go forward.
Yeah, Mark, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you how you're driving this transformation and how you're leveraging Workspan today. Because if you look out not just at Cognizant, you have a massive ecosystem out there, building, co-building, making co-equal partnerships like Cognizant happen. That doesn't happen just like that. Give us a sense of how you're driving it.
So, I think everyone on the webcast today understands things aren't getting simpler. While we're trying to make them simpler for our customers, the ability to communicate, have insights, and the ability to collaborate is absolutely essential in a way that we never have before. So we're leveraging Workspan to make sure that we have an open channel of communication and data that we can share with our partners around sales plans, around individual opportunities. We were talking just before this around, today we have over 1,000 sales plans on Workspan with our partners and over 200,000 opportunities. So as you can imagine, this takes a lot of collaboration, a lot of insight to be able to track, understand where we're at, what the next steps are, how we're going to collaborate, raise issues, raise escalations. How do you encapsulate that all? And we're really leveraging Workspan to make sure that there's a common understanding of where we're at and where we're going around individual sales plans and individual opportunities. And it's really creating that transparency that we need in this very complex world.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Jack, any feedback or reactions from your side?
Well, look, one of the things that we've done inside of Cognizant is the traditional client partner inside of Cognizant, and I don't know if it's necessarily different within our competitors, are ones that understand advisory, understand industry issues, probably know business process outsourcing, things like that. What they typically don't know are the big technology platforms like SAP. And so Cognizant recognized that SAP itself is its own sort of universe with its customers, right? I was at SAP, I was the first chief customer officer for HANA when HANA came out. And I view it as, SAP, basically said, we're going and turning left at the stoplight, right? And everybody's coming with us because we're going to take this HANA journey and go to an in-memory database. And SAP has this amazing ability to paint the vision and the strategy years and years ahead, and their customers come with them. So one of the things that we've done within our company is we've actually built our own global go-to-market commercial business development team of just purely dedicated, many of them ex-tier 1 and ex-SAP folks who have the industry and technology and domain expertise all based on SAP. And so I have my own go-to-market team that we work with our key clients. That group today is in daily contact with SAP. Like that's that partnering expectation I was talking about earlier that our customers expect. So we basically have mirrored, we have our own SAP COEs, our own SAP go-to-market sales and commercial team. And those teams globally are completely in alignment with SAP. So when I think about work plan, then I think about the ability to then how do we enable that communication to be, to use some HANA terminology, real time, right? We want that communication not to be at the end of the month, a spreadsheet update and say, hey, how are we doing at XYZ tractor company? We want it to be, I just left a meeting at a giant green tractor company, and I just got a vision of what their relationship with their suppliers and their distributors, what they want to do, and how quickly they want to see that vision built from a proof of concept. Who can we get today to start working on that vision, right? That's just what they expect. So I think one, that expectation is there. Two, the alignment with SAP is critical. And then when I think about, the technologies that you guys bring to bear, then I think about it enabling really that communication to happen more real time.
Awesome. What a great insight. So much, net to unpack there. And we covered a lot of great topics. It's not just sequential, it is co-equal partnerships. And that's the essence of the ecosystem. It's not just selling, it's about co-selling, co-building towards shared customer outcomes. We also learned, moving to the cloud, and it requires all of it to come together. So with that, I have opened it up to questions. Chip, what are our team members, ecosystem attendees here asking the panel here?
Excellent. So great session so far, guys. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. A lot of things happening in the SAP ecosystem, and thanks so much for sharing. So a couple of questions. One, I'll start with this. Neil Bleckerman says, has the effort to move SAP to cloud evolved the skill set of the team to manage this transformation with partners, both SAP and Cognizant?
I'm happy to take that on, Mark, if you like.
Go ahead. I'll follow.
So one of the things that we've hired within my own practice is I've actually hired some ex AWS and Azure cloud architects who specialize in SAP. This is a role that I think is really critical. I have a lot of key clients that expect us to be able to come in and say, look, just because I say I want to run SAP on whichever hyperscaler we want, what does that really mean? How is that really going to look and feel and operate? How can I control my data in a cloud environment? My apologies. And so I just thought maybe it was time that I actually have some cloud architects actually live within my practice directly. And I think that's really paid off. And I think with Rise as well, that's going to help address some of those same questions on our customer side. So yeah, so I've just decided to just double down and have some of those folks live right within my go-to-market teams.
Yeah, and I think from our side, again, we come from a legacy, obviously, a long legacy of on-premise, and for us, it is a change management, both internally, but also customer facing in these roles. So from a partner management perspective, we're engaging in a different way. We're looking at a very complex landscape across multiple types of ecosystem partners. So from a partner management perspective, we've got to do things differently. We've got to learn how to work with these partners in a different way. So that's a change management piece inside. And then I would echo, Jack's comments about cloud architects and customer side partner resources or ecosystem resources. Just because our Cognizant's enabled on SAP's cloud platform doesn't mean that they don't need help, cloud architects, other support from SAP at customer sites to really make that successful. So we need to build also an extended team in new areas around architects, around business consultants that will help our consulting partners in SAP specific areas. So it's changing the roles that we require from an ecosystem perspective, but it's also changing our traditional partner management roles to understand and evolve the way that we do business with our ecosystem.
That's great. Great question, Neil and Marc and Jack. Thanks for those answers.
There's another one that Andrew asked. Andrew McKinsey, he's saying, would love to talk about how services partners and service only partners and how you're helping drive consumption, because I understand cloud is a lot about driving consumption and adoption.
Well, I sort of view consumption really on two levels. There's certainly license consumption, right? And there's also cloud consumption based on the type of arrangements that they have with whatever hyperscaler. On the cloud consumption side, I would say a lot of our large enterprises are really, they've crafted global agreements with the hyperscalers. So for them, putting SAP in the cloud is only part of the various other areas that they expect to be in the cloud as well. So they're really relying on us to be able to scale that out, understand over time how much cloud space that would take, right? Especially as they may be only partially on SAP. So I had this with several customers where in manufacturing space where they had multiple different versions of ERP platforms around the globe. And their first step was, let's take it all to SAP ECC, and then let's take it, once we get there, then let's take it to S4. And they really wanted to understand, okay, so what does the data migration path look like? And then ultimately, when we go to a single global instance around S4, what does that look like? And then after compression, what should I expect my cloud consumption model? So they expect us to be able to understand and know, also based on the growth of their business, what that will look like along the way.
Awesome. Maybe one last question. I see Chip Berger asking this question. It's a competitive one. So the references to IBM earlier in the webinar, bringing up an interesting topic, the co-opetition model. Marc and Jack, have you had challenges with this model? If so, what Workspan features, functions do you leverage that uniquely support co-opetition model of partnerships? I'll take the Workspan feature question, but could you address the business function of how SAP is working with multiple partners?
Yeah, I think again, I mean, there's a transparency to me is a huge piece of what we need to continue to evolve around. Whether you're talking about our hyperscaler relationships or our SI relationships, co-opetition is increasing. We understand that. We need to make sure we understand how to deal with that, because again, it's not all or nothing anymore. And we need to be very clear about where we're working with certain partners, what swim lanes we're going to be working in, et cetera, whether it's on an industry perspective or whether it's on a specific, LOB, et cetera, and making sure that we are transparent with our partners about how we're going to work together. I think, again, it comes back to communication, transparency, and being able to have that openness. We know there's competition out there. That's not going to change. And I think it's only going to increase. So we've got to be able to adjust to that. And that's part, again, of what we're trying to accomplish, especially with things like RISE, where we embed the infrastructure as a service into our offering, but we're also working very closely with the hyperscalers, and we have to understand direct opportunities versus RISE opportunities, how that works, how we're going to work together to make sure that we're not confusing the customer and we're going in and talking about one single message together versus competing against each other. So it's a work in progress. I think that as I mentioned before, this is getting more complicated. There's more partners coming into the environment here in a single pursuit or a single space. And we need to really understand how to manage that. And again, I think you can answer the Workspan part, but for us, Workspan's helping us manage that based on different swim lanes, different sales plans, et cetera, that we have documented in there and can have exposure to and views of, basically.
Absolutely. Just to cover the Workspan question very quickly, following off from Mark, each partner has a different sales plan, and you could have one opportunity in your CRM, but you could have dedicated pursuits in Workspan with different co-equal partners. And the opportunity can be split in terms of how you run it in Workspan, so that even if you pursue it with two partners, you can give the winning partner certain credit, you can give the losing partner certain credit, but you worked equally well with your practice teams to put the best of the partnership or the joint offering out there. So we have specific capabilities to kind of manage that data privacy in the tool itself. So that way each partnership kind of reflects the best towards the customer. Awesome. What a great session. Thank you for sharing the whole journey with SAP and Cognizant, being so transparent and open to the community and sharing your insights. And one of the key things about the ecosystem cloud community here is that people connect up, and I would encourage you to follow or engage with Marc and Jack on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'll accept your request to invite just because you are here together in a shared community. And thank you, Marc. Thank you, Jack, from the bottom of our hearts.